What's up, GDQ? I'm Dave357, coming at you with my submission for my Scooby-Doo Classic Creep Capers any percent no SNL run. That would be any percent no save and load. The rules of this is pretty much that we just can't use the save and load functions of the game. Other than that, it's pretty much fair game. Just get to the end. And as far as the timing rules, it starts as soon as we hit new game here on the menu, and then as soon as we see the credits at the end of the game. So you'll hear, I'm just going to go ahead and give a fair warning that you will hear some mashing on my controller, and you'll probably see it as well in my controller capture down here in the left hand corner. But I will explain why we do that, as well as pretty much the story and everything that's going on in the game as we go. So let's just jump right into it. We'll start in 3, 2, 1, go. So right off the bat here, you'll see that we skipped some intro cutscenes. Basically, the story is that Scooby and Shaggy are coming home from a matinee in which they saw a scary movie, and they're all creeped out now. And then as they're walking down the road, they hear a car crash. Lo and behold, there's a truck on fire. We find a fire extinguisher, we put it out, and we find some clues, but we don't find a driver. So then we meet up with our gang here at this museum. We don't have access, but we picked up a ladder off of the top of the van very quickly. We skipped some cutscenes for that. Broke into the museum, snuck past this very, very observant guard, and now we are going down to the first floor to let our friends inside. In this cutscene that we're skipping, Velma, not Daphne, Velma gets kidnapped by the Black Knight. That is the main villain of this chapter, if you will, who has been plaguing this museum and running off its visitors. So it's up to Mystery Incorporated to figure out what is the mystery. So in that cutscene, we ran away from the guard, and then he slipped and fell on a water puddle. So we picked up his key, and now we're going into this hidden chamber back here, where we will find our next couple of clues, a paintbrush and a canvas. So something that you should know about this game is that there are 3 distinct types of items. There are 1, clues, 2, trap pieces, and 3, disguises. Unfortunately, we actually don't use any of the disguises. We don't pick them up in any percent or any percent no SNL. So we won't get to see that, but we do have to pick up all of the clues and all of the trap pieces in order to progress to the end of the chapter. So here's our next clue. It's a voice recorder. That is a trap piece that I'll explain it once we get to that point. So we pretty much just got all the clues we need on the second floor. Going back down to the first floor. And we'll go into the Egyptian exhibit, where we will actually run into the Black Knight. To give you a little bit of my backstory on Scooby-Doo, this is a game that I've had for basically since I was like 2 or 3 years old. One of my earliest games I remember playing, and I was playing it back in like 2018 again just for some nostalgia. Accidentally found a glitch that I'll showcase up in a few minutes, and thought, hey, this might be pretty fun to speedrun. So actually, oh geez, almost got the perfect night escape where he doesn't catch you, but Scooby got in the way. So I actually had the world record for any percent and any percent no save and load up until a few weeks ago. One of my good friends who's also running this game took the no save and load world record. So he and I basically, I sort of got him into running this game, and he and I had basically traded the record off back and forth, back and forth. I mean, it was a constant war. We call it the Great Scooby Wars of 2020. So right now I'm holding the any percent record, and he's holding the no save and load record. So it's really fun. It definitely makes it a lot more interesting for some friendly competition. This is the glitch I was talking about, where basically what happened was we glitched through the wall, found Velma, gave her glasses, and now we're here where we are giving all of our clue and trap pieces to Fred. As you'll notice, the game does have extremely fast menuing, especially if you do it correctly. So it's definitely something to keep your eye out for, and make sure you do your inputs as smoothly as you can. Otherwise you might mess up, like I did, where you pull up the pause menu instead. So we skipped the cutscene, but basically the gang came together and they said, here's our plan. We're going to lure the Black Knight into the Egyptian chamber, or Egyptian exhibit, excuse me. And then we will use the voice recorder to scare him long enough to stun him, and we'll drop this sandbag on his head, which will knock him out, and then we can discover his true identity. So that's the master plan. We need the Black Knight to follow us, so I actually have to stop and wait for him a little bit, because if he gets too far behind, once we exit the prehistoric exhibit, if he's not right behind us, then we actually can't progress. We have to actually go back and pick him up. So that was it. We skipped the cutscene where we find him. The bad guy was actually the museum curator. He was forging paintings in the back where we found that paintbrush, and then selling them on the black market. And then for some reason, the gang decides to come to a snow lodge. They send Scooby and Shaggy to get some firewood because the snow lodge doesn't have any, I guess. And then lo and behold, the snow ghost. Yeah, so as the name of the game implies, classic Creep Capers basically sort of just run into all of the classic villain characters. So we skip that cutscene where we say, "Hey guys, we just saw a snow ghost," and they're like, "Yeah, okay, whatever," and we have to go find some clues about it. So we enter the library. We find another character, Mr. Leech, who was on the ham radio talking to his boss, and we don't know who that boss is, but we think it might have something to do with these clues we've been finding that are addressed to an R. Necros. Like, R is his first initial and Necros is his last name, so pretty brutal stuff there, you know. And so he chases us out of the library, but not before we grab this financial document, some sort of invoice. Then we leave the lodge. The gang's out here waiting for us to give them the clues and the firewood that we found. But if we actually go back here to where we initially found the snow ghost, we'll find that he dropped some gems of some sort. So that's another clue. Perhaps these guys are in it for, they're doing these crimes for selling these gems, these priceless gems. So it's a little bit of foreshadowing there. So once again, drop off our clue item, clue and trap pieces, excuse me. Believe it or not, that corset we picked up is a trap piece. If I recall correctly, there's only 2 trap pieces in this level. I think all the others that we have to pick up are actually clue pieces, and there's a lot. So the next thing, Velma moved a snowmobile that was in the way, or a giant snowplow that was blocking off this area of the map. We come in here, we find the snow ghost. He's just running around in circles. It's basically the area, like each level basically has an area where you can find the villain just sort of roaming about. And we come over here to this sawmill. This is the dreaded sawmill for speedrunners because these logs will sort of, you know, wreck your run. Basically, every time you take a hit and Shaggy goes zoinks, you lose about 2 seconds. I call it taking a zoinks. Earlier, whenever we saw Mr. Leech, you can actually get away from him by only taking 1 intentional hit. I call that a single zoinks versus, you know, taking a hit is a double zoinks. So we got out of there at 7.5 minutes on the timer. That's actually pretty good, especially considering, you know, trying to record my submission for GDQ here is a little bit nerve-wracking, but it's fun all the same. I do really love this game. I love talking about it, especially because when I first got into running this game, we give that dog the bone. When I first got into this game, it hadn't been played in like 2 years or something like that. More on that in a second. We found this ancient temple in the cavern where we find Mr. Fuchin Lee, who is hiding from the snow ghost in this ancient temple. And while he's hiding, he's been noticing the snow ghost comes in, steals some ancient artifacts and whatnot, and then leaves. He hasn't found Fuchin Lee though. So he told us about all that. He gave us this iron key which unlocks the attic in the snow lodge, where we will find some more clues, our final pieces of clues actually. So speaking more to my history with this game. Oh, snow ghost, juke him out. Oh, we made it. Okay. If he hits us, we take like double damage, and it's just a bad time loss. But we made it. We juked him out. So with my own history of the game, when I got into it, it hadn't been played in a couple of years, and like I said, I was initially playing on actual Nintendo 64 hardware, and I got my time down to like 29 minutes and 14 seconds, which It's pretty good, don't get me wrong, especially for Nintendo hardware. But then my friend, who holds the no save and load record right now that I was talking about earlier, I went in the wrong door, excuse me. He started playing the game on emulator, and I realized it's so much faster. I pretty much have to do it. So both he and I have worked together on finding new strats, finding optimized routes, because pretty much this game is not very movement intensive. There's not really any glitches to exploit or anything like that, but it is very just route specific. You need to walk certain ways, and you need to pick up your items in certain ways and certain orders, especially for the any percent route. So between he and I, we've made a lot of progress, and yeah, we basically cut down the time. Like I said, I had a 29:14, and that was world record, and now it's down to, I want to say 27 something. 27:39 is my sum of best, but I think the current record is 27. I'll have to look it up. I'll look it up right after this run. I should have looked it up beforehand. I can't believe I don't remember. But like I said, I probably just don't remember because he has it. So the save and load, while you would think any percent would be faster, it's actually not. It's actually only about a minute, I think. It's about a minute. Realistically, it could be slightly faster for like taskbots, because you need perfect menuing, like just frame perfect menuing to be as fast as you can. But you know, it's pretty difficult for us flesh and blood humans. So with that said, we have all the trap pieces and we have all of the clues. Our next plan of action was to trap the snow ghost, as it were. And we do so by luring him onto this ski slope, where he chases us down. Hopefully he won't catch up to us. And by the time we get to the end, Fred has a plan. So his plan, he dug a hole into the snow, and we just have to ski by it, and the snow ghost will fall in. That is the most excellent plan that Fred has devised. And somehow it works. And we use the core set to contain him. Just wrap it around him, get him stuck. I have no idea, don't ask me why, but it's Scooby-Doo logic. So the next bit of information going on here. The gang got sick and tired of finding all these monsters, so we went to a tropical island for a vacation to get away from all that. And instead we find the witch doctor. A tiki scare is no fair. So this is actually maybe the longest level of the game, just because there's not a whole lot of clues or trap pieces to pick up, but there's a lot of walking. There's a lot of walking around, and it's probably my least favorite level, both casually and speedrunning. Just because even playing this casually, it's a bit confusing. It's one of the more confusing levels. It's harder to figure out the puzzles. You know, especially whenever you're like a little kid like me when I first played this game. So that movement right there, I coined that, called Perfect Paradise, where we get through those standees without taking any damage. It wasn't perfect movement because we probably could have maneuvered a little bit faster, but we at least didn't take any hits. Because, you know, like I mentioned earlier, for every hit or every zoinks that you take, it's about a 2-second loss. So here we're going into the graveyard. I did a lot of research on this level, or in this section of the level as well. And I have found that running directly to the witch doctor, taking intentional damage, grabbing the key, and then running away is the fastest. Especially if he runs away from you, the witch doctor that is. If he runs in a direction where he's not going to hit you immediately after you pick up the key, and you only take one hit instead of two, it's the fastest. So we pretty much had perfect RNG in that section. So yay for RNG. But my least favorite part of this level is coming up in this next area. In this area there are 3 tiki heads, and they're all facing a compass direction, north, south, east, or west. We have north, south, and east So I believe that would be NSESWN, maybe? I believe. I should have grabbed my notes. SWN. I'll explain in a moment. Yes, that was SWN. Perfect. I had to recall from memory on that one, and it's actually been maybe 2 or 3 months since I've played Scooby-Doo. But basically there are a select number of patterns that those tiki statues can arrange themselves in once you spawn into the level. And each pattern has a specific outcome. NSE, or North, South, East, translated into Southwest, North for its conclusion, or its solution, I should say. And then here we have another puzzle where we have to input these numbers onto the statue. 3, 4, 2, 1. I put it on my splits just so I would never forget. 3, 4, 2. It's kind of hard to see them, but you can see that there are numbers on these blocks that we're inputting. Skip the cutscene and voila, this door opens to an underground cavern volcano craziness. There are what I call lava rocks spewing out all over the place, and these things are my nemesis because they will randomly jump out and land on the ground. They have set locations where they land, but when they spout out to land in those areas is random. Sometimes they'll hit you in midair, sometimes they'll land directly in front of you, just as you're walking into it, which is really unfortunate. So you'll sometimes take hits for no good reason. Right there we saved Daphne because the witch doctor had kidnapped her, and then we found this secret lair behind where she was taken captive. So we gave Fred all of our clue and trap pieces. It was literally 3 pieces. We gave him a box of pearls, and some vine rope, and a bamboo mat of sorts. And literally that's all we needed. The plan is we will lure the witch doctor here, stretch the rope across the ground so he trips over it and lands on the mat. Don't ask me why he has to land on the mat. He could land anywhere on the floor, but hey, that's Scooby-Doo for you. So anyway, we actually don't have to go too far to find him. Like I said, Chapter 3 is a very large area. There's a lot of running involved. It's definitely the longest chapter of the game. But we only have to go right here. There's the witch doctor. He's chasing us now. He saw us. And we just have to bring him all the way back to pretty much where we initially found Daphne. So we're going to run back through this underground volcano. Hopefully we won't run into any lava rocks. Bless RNG. There is some things that you can do to make sure you avoid. Like I run a little bit to the left there rather than hugging the wall on the right, just because I know a lava rock can sort of spawn on the right side. Same for this area, a lava rock can spawn directly to the right. But, like I said, right there, like I said, exactly. Just RNG, sometimes they'll just pop up and hit you. It's nothing you can do about it. Alright, so as soon as we enter this door, we'll split. And we are on the final chapter. There's several cutscenes that we have to skip through. Basically, the details of that is that the final boss of the game, this Mr. R. Necros guy that we've been finding clues about through each level, he's been getting pretty ticked that this gang of teens has been, ruining his operations. So what he does is he actually goes through and he kidnaps everybody. Kidnaps Scooby, Shaggy, Velma, Daphne, and Fred. Pretty tragic. So Scooby and Shaggy, they're put in this dungeon down here at the bottom, and it's our job, for whatever reason, to go save the rest of the gang. So this is the case of the classic creeps. This one's not like a classic villain. This one I'm pretty sure is an original character design, original story design, if you will. Kidnapping everybody and Shaggy and Scooby having to save them. I believe. Don't quote me on that though. As you'll notice as we move about through this labyrinth, there are certain enemy patterns where if we're fast enough, like so, we don't have to worry about running into any of them. As long as we go the right directions, and maintain our speed. So if we go out through this very ornate spider door, go out here into the graveyard and pick up our first. This one's not a clue, nor is it a trap piece, nor is it a disguise. I guess technically there is a fourth type of piece in this game. This is a puzzle piece, something that we need in order to progress the game. We have to pick up this puzzle, pick up another fish. Oop. This one is the biggest fish, and you'll see in just a moment where this comes into play. Go ahead and apologize about the loudness of this hallway. There's a bunch of stuffed animals that cry out for whatever reason. Okay. Oops. Put that in the wrong order. Silly me. Alright. So we have to put these fish, huge fish, large fish, and tiny fish, in order on the wall to open up this doorway that was behind the fireplace. Now we're in another underground labyrinth. This one we run right by the Ghoul King. He is the enemy of this level, and this is his area where we basically can see him roaming about freely. We find the Tiki Doctor mask, or the Witch Doctor mask, excuse me, just like we have also found the Snow Ghost mask. Sort of brushed right over that without even mentioning it, but we're basically finding all these clues to prove that this guy is tied to those other enemies that we solved their cases. We found Daphne, we freed her, and in that cutscene we skipped, the Ghoul King, he sort of runs by us and I guess kidnaps Daphne again. It's never really clear what happens to her, because later on we find her and she's perfectly fine. But as the Ghoul King ran away, he dropped this iron key, and its description reads something about how it's a little bit rusted, as if it's been left outside, which is a perfect clue to know that this key goes for the shed in the outdoors graveyard that we were in earlier. Oh wow, I actually got hit by that mouse. Actually, that's very surprising to me, just because I actually never get hit by that mouse on the return trip. Very interesting. Anyway, moving forward, back in the graveyard. This time we're going down here into the actual graves to pick up a hammer. Now, one of the things that I'm sort of proud of, I guess you could say, for this route and the any percent route, is I really looked into equipping items in certain orders, in their like optimal orders that they're going to be needed and used. And so this area in particular, as soon as you walk in, you want to equip the hammer, grab the net, walk over here, skip the cutscene, use the hammer, pick up the... Oh, I messed it up. You're supposed to equip the bug spray and then pick up the ladder rungs, excuse me. But basically, in that coffin was Fred. We saved Fred from being nailed down in a coffin, which I think you would suffocate to death, so the Ghoul King was really trying to kill Fred on that one. Don't get me wrong, I mean, maybe I'm incorrect in saying that you would suffocate, but I think you would die. So anyway, teen homicide aside, we use the bug spray to get rid of that spider web in the way. We can equip the ladder rungs as we enter this door, and we're in some sort of clock tower is what I call it, just because there's a lot of large rotating gears that don't really make any sense. Put these ladder rungs on the ladder and start making our way up the tower. Over here we'll have the final mask, the Black Knight's mask. I'm not sure how the Ghoul King got these masks back. I mean, you would think the police took them as evidence. And furthermore, why are they sporadically dispersed throughout his mansion? It's kind of strange. Regardless, we find Velma trapped up here. I mean, trapped. She was literally just standing there. Like, she wasn't tied up or anything. That's just how she holds her arms in this game. So we need to pick up this piece, which will let us more quickly equip the music box, because they go right next to each other in the inventory. And we actually got the perfect cycle there, where we got past that final gear without taking any damage. Not a very easy thing to do. The last piece we need to pick up is right here. We sort of got it off screen, but it's some Tibetan chimes, which ties the Ghoul King to the Snow Ghost even further, since that apparently was set in Tibet. I don't know what Mystery Incorporated was doing in Tibet. Like, I thought they just went up into some mountains in Colorado or something, but no. That was apparently Tibet. Run past the Ghoul King here. Use the music box to put this giant tentacle monster to sleep. And then we'll pick up this newspaper and painting before making our way outside. Yes, to the great outdoors. Before we do so, we can actually equip that large gear again. This is another one of those fourth type pieces. It's a puzzle piece. We're going to put it onto this mechanism that will somehow lower the drawbridge leading to this mansion. Not before we pick up this can of oil, though. So we equip that, it lowers the drawbridge, and we're good to go. Now we can go all the way to the drawbridge where we'll find the van, we'll find the mystery machine, and we'll find the golden key, which is, oh, there we go. The final key we need to unlock the Ghoul King's lair. Alright, so here is the drawbridge. He has giant tentacle monsters in his moat for whatever reason. Kind of weird. But here's the mystery machine, and here's the golden key. I don't know how the Ghoul King got into his own lair without his own key, but don't worry about it. Just don't ask questions. Again, Scooby-Doo logic, it goes out the window. So, I haven't really mentioned it, but you might have noticed Scooby is kind of... Oh yeah, there's the gang, by the way. They're all together. And Shaggy and Scooby just told him that we found a way to get out of here. We found the mystery machine. But they're like, no, we need to trap this guy. So we're going to go find him in here. And as I was saying, I haven't really mentioned it, but Scooby-Doo is actually kind of the worst character in his own game. In this Scooby-Doo game. The reason being, he'll push Shaggy around. He'll get in his way and slow you down. Like, he just sometimes makes it impossible. Like right there. You'll notice it was just hard to move because Scooby was in the way. And over the course of an entire run, it really adds up. Oop. So now we are dropping off all of our clue and trap pieces with Fred. And not menuing very well. We'll go just a little bit slower. Not too slow though. This is probably the longest clue and trap piece drop off in the game, just because you pick up so many as you go everywhere. So what happened now is we got warped to the trap room where we're going to trap the Ghoul King, and we need to go all the way back to his lair to make him start chasing us. There we go. And it takes about, once we find him, it takes about 45 seconds from getting him to chase us to getting him to the trap room. And what happens is he runs in, he falls into that green glowing pit you might have noticed, and then we fish him out with the hook that we found. It's kind of strange. Also, you might notice that once I leave this upcoming door, there's been this large yellow thing right in the way of the camera. Right here, that's actually a decoration on the wall that in the actual Nintendo 64 game, that doesn't happen. It doesn't get in your way on the camera. But for some reason in the emulator, the camera angle didn't I guess get coded correctly or something. It's not coded in the correct place. And so there's that giant yellow piece in the way, which is a bit obnoxious, but it's not too bad because I mean, you pretty much see yourself for most of the hallway up until you get to the door anyway. So now here we just need to skip cutscenes to the credits, and there we go, time. 28:29. Obviously not my best, because, you know, like I said, I used to hold world record for this game. I love this game, near and dear to my heart. But it's sort of hard to talk about the game while keeping a world record pace, but you know, I know that's not what you guys are looking for. I just thought I'd mention it. So I'm actually looking up on speedrun.com right now the Scooby-Doo Classic Creep Capers Nintendo 64. Any percent world record held by me is 26 minutes and 40 seconds. Any percent no save and load. The current world record is 27:24, and my record is 27:39. As expected, since that's what my sum of best is right now. So I'm only 15 seconds. Wow, 15 seconds. That's quite a big difference, because I will say this game got very competitive. It's really getting down to the second on being able to optimize your walking and optimize your item equipment and everything in order to get that record. But it's still a really fun game. Very easy game. I mean, it takes less than 30 minutes to do. So definitely a good one to start with for anybody who's interested in getting in speedrunning. There is a Discord for it, and everyone there, including myself especially, would love to help everyone out. So to GDQ, thank you for watching this submission. Thank you for considering. Hopefully I'll hear back from you soon. So thanks again. I'll see you later.